What is an illusion? Do you ever think about that? Like, is it something you occupy yourself with and wonder about at all? It's something that's been with me for many, many years. And it's because my spiritual teacher, for many years, even though I never met him because he passed away in the 60s and I was just a little girl. But his teachings have been with me for many years. And a lot of Joel's work is about realizing that it is all an illusion. He calls it error. He talks about the nature of error, which is the nature of illusion, the nature of the matrix or the counterfeit or the overlay or the virtual reality. That's what we are all living in. And most of us are not really questioning it, right? It's something you've heard it. They talk about it in Buddhism, they talk about it in many other religions, not all, but. And that's just something we take in and it's like, oh, it's an illusion, but it's a concept, right? It's something we accept in our mind or consider in our mind, but we don't really realize it. Joel Goldsmith, he had fully realized it, and that's why he could see through it all. He could see through any kind of disease, lack, limitation, problems. He knew what it was. It's an illusion, it's an error, it's not reality, and it has no power. That was so much of the core of his message. And then, of course, well, what is it then? Well, it is God, it is the divine. And if I may use my favorite quote from the Gospel of Thomas, is heaven is spread all over the earth and man cannot see it. Okay, so Joel Goldsmith, he could see slash sense it. He felt it, he knew it to the point where he was convinced about it. And because of that, he knew that what he was seeing as the illusion had no power. And it changed, it dissolved, it became nothing. And he talked about that. It's nothing, it is nothing. So I've been busy with that for many years, and it's just, a little bit of hacking away at it and just trying to get quiet and not engage in it because it's an illusion and just keep going to a place of prayer. The nature of prayer is what Joel Goldsmith talks about. And just be open and say, okay, so this is not real. What is real? Show me. And that's what then happened with Joel Goldsmith, where things really shifted. I am not at that stage by any means, although I have definitely seen things change when I really be present there and rest in that, in the stillness, and allow the stillness to show itself what it is. That's where the magic, we can call it, happens, or at least it looks like magic to us. But, the real question has always been for me, well, what is it then? And when I was connected with one of the students of Joel Goldsmith later in life, who by then was a teacher, and other teachers too, I would ask them, well, what is it? And they would always say, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. And it never satisfied me. I needed to know. And so I did my research. I lately, the last few years, I think there's been a lot more exposure to it. And so this is what I've come to. And I always feel a little weird talking about it because it's not fully realized in me, but it's something that I'm pondering and that I'm with. And you can see if any of it resonates with you. I don't know that it is true, but when I hear about it, read about it, even talk about it, there is something in me that goes, yes, there's that sense of, okay, yes, I know, true. You may have that same sensor in you, the yes and the no, the true, not true. You kind of know. So this is what I have heard and read, that basically it is a hologram that we live in. So it's not really here except as a projection of something that we don't really know where the projection comes from. And I think that was a big question for me. It's like, well, if it's nothing, why are we even experiencing something? If it's nothing, why do we experience it as if there is something? And that is because we are experiencing it through our mind and five senses, through our five sense mind, right? Everything we experience here is through what we hear, see, taste, touch, and smell, and think. And so that also tells us it's actually something we're experiencing inside of ourselves. And then it's being projected out as that hologram, as if it's real. And that's what we experience as my life, this world. And all along, it's something from the outside that's being projected into our mind, and then it's being projected through our senses. But where does it come from? What do you think? If it's something you wonder about, then I hope you will engage with me in this questioning it, this inquiry into what is this illusion? Where is something that is nothing coming from, pretending it is something? Joel Goldsmith talked about, it's a hypnotic suggestion. Now, where does a suggestion happen? In here, right? We are accepting a suggestion that there is something here. And that's why the more we accept it, the more we experiencing it. I know it's really weird, isn't it? It kind of feels weird to talk about it, but somehow I just needed to crack that code, and find out, and I'm still in the middle of it. And sometimes talking about it like I am now, then usually I always experience more clarity coming through because I open up to it, and then it can come through. So one teacher, he talked about that it is basically a projection from lower astral levels. It's like, I really had to think about that. So if there are entities, and there are, of course, that want a certain experience through us, and they have the ability to project that into our mind. So it's kind of like our mind is the illusion, is the experiencer of the illusion. And because we have identified ourselves with our mind, we think that the illusion that's being projected in, or that hologram, we think it is us. You see that? But it is not, but it sure seems like it. And the more we engage in that projected suggestion, the more we identify with it, the more this world seems real. I've done a lot of YouTubes about not touching it, unhooking from it. And I think that's a very important piece. Because when we don't touch it, then that energy doesn't go into it. So then the energy instead can be put in opening up to experiencing or receiving what is actually true, not true in the situation we see out there, because there's no truth in it. It's just a projection coming through, or as our mind that is projected out there on this movie screen. So these lower astral energies, beings, who knows what it is, there must be a reason that they're doing this, right? I mean, if I kind of look at it logically, then like, why would they want that? What is it that they want from projecting that into our minds? And then we react to it, and then we get emotional around it, and we have energy happening in our bodies. And so what I have also come to understand is that emotional attachment that we have to it, that feeds back into that astral realm, and for them to experiencing what it is like to be a human being. I'm sure there's a lot of questions in between the things that I'm saying, but this is just what I'm saying for now. So I have kind of accepted the fact that it is being projected from the outside into my mind, and then I project it outside of me as if that projection is real. And then I can either react to it and get emotional about it, be attached to it, whatever. And that feeds then back to the senders. So when I unhook, I'm not sending anything back. So those energy are being starved, basically. They're not getting a feed out of me, an emotional feed. I'm not giving it to them anymore. I've given plenty most of my life. I'm sure you have too. So so when I heard that version of it, something in me relaxed. I was like, okay, at least for now, I can accept that. And that helps me unhook even more. That makes me even more eager or inspired to not feed it anymore. So that instead of feeding my energy to it, I want to feed my energy to what and who I am without that projection, right? That comes back to the spiritual self-inquiry. Who am I? Right? Who am I really? If I'm not any of that, and we know that from the spiritual teaching, so who am I? But to start unhooking from it and starting to see through it, I think is such an important piece, because I've seen most spiritual people, we're still believing that it's real out there because it seems so darn real. And it's hard to start unhooking when specifically there's emotional charges, there's survival involved in it. Then we just go and we grasp and we try and change it and we try and survive. So if this helps you at this stage, I'm sure there's a lot more that will be said about this and that we can start realizing about it. But if that's helpful to you, like it has been to me, then it might encourage you or inspire you to unhook more of it. And I can use the metaphor again that the movie Monsters, Inc. Go watch that. It kind of is a good example of what is happening with the emotions that we express and how that's being fed back to the ones who are pretending to be monsters. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else. But I really want to encourage you to just to think about this and what is your relationship to the illusion or to the matrix or to the overlay? How do you relate to it? Are you fully engaging in it and believing it and trying to change it? And is it satisfying for you? Is that how you want to live your life? Because that's been one of my big realizations, that I do not want to live like that. I don't want to live as if this illusion is real and I need to make it and survive and, get into arguments and being right or wrong or not good enough. I'm done with that. And that's why I'm like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. And why would I? Why would I? So it's given me a lot of freedom. And when things do show up, as they do on the screen out there, and there's a lot showing up these days, there's not much reaction in me. Instead of just like almost like a deepening into love, into my heart, into the longing of what I really want. So it's been very helpful for me. I'm seeing through things almost immediately. And that doesn't mean I'm not still hooked into it certain way. We have to live here, right? It's not like you just let it all go and then everything is fine. It's like it really is an unhooking little at a time and then allowing the new to come in to maybe take over the old. So it's kind of a process of ebb and flow still. And we have been in a big outward wave, and I would say we are on our way back in, because I remember there was a Danish enlightened teacher back when I lived in Denmark. That was probably in the 80s. He talked about the, what is it called? Hunger and feeling full principle. So there has been a hunger for experiences out there. And now we feel full, and now we want to go back to the ebb where we just be in the stillness, in the presence, because we've had enough of that out there. And I think that's happening to a lot of people, but we need to see it first. I think a lot of people say, yeah, but they're still so involved in the world out there emotionally. You can be I think we all need to be very involved out there for a while in a new way and start rebuilding the world, but it's not coming from an emotional attachment and pain and trauma, because that's just feeding the projection, and then it goes back. So maybe that is helpful for you to take this as a contemplation and just see how you make sense of something that is called a matrix or an illusion. What is it? Is it real? Or does it just seem real because you keep feeding it? What happens when you stop engaging, when you stop feeding it? Many times when we stop feeding it, it almost gets bigger, it's like, come back, come back. So there is a phase where you start letting go, and then all hell breaks loose, and it's like, no, I got to go back in. And that's a challenging phase. I think that's a good time to be with others who are on the same journey, to have them support you and say, no, just stay here. Just let that drama move by also. Just see if you can stay here. So I think that's kind of what I want to say about it today. And I'm very curious what you think about it, how you feel about it, how you see it. Maybe you can add some of your insights to it. So please like, comment, subscribe, share. I'd love to hear how it is for you. Thank you so much.